Chapter 3: Emergency on the Pipeline. It was snowing hard when George woke up in his comfortable room at the Elk Lodge. He had a big breakfast before going to the Trans-Alaska Pipeline office. It was time to put on his snow clothes, a heavy parka, a big woolen sweater, thick snow pants, and warm snow boots. George met Jim and Mr. Richardson, the director, in a modern office on the 3rd floor. He looked at the big map of Alaska on the wall and saw the 800-mile pipeline that started at Prudhoe Bay above the Arctic Circle. It went down to the Port of Valdez in southern Alaska, where the oil was put on tankers and sent to other parts of the world.
Good morning, George,
said Mr. Richardson, a short man of about 60 with glasses.
and thank you for coming up to work with us. We've got a real emergency. As Jim probably told you, the recent earthquake damaged the pipeline in several places, particularly south of Fairbanks, between pump stations 8, 9, and 10.
He pointed to the places on the map.
We want to fix the pipeline immediately, before we get really bad winter weather. Leaks and cracks can become big oil spills, which are very dangerous for the environment. The Trans-Alaska Pipeline is a big international business, and our first responsibility is to the environment of this beautiful state. Safety on the pipeline is our goal.
He was silent for a moment and looked at the map again. Then he said,
All the equipment you need is in our special Jeep. When can you leave?
We can leave this morning, Mr. Richardson,
said Jim.
and get to Pump Station 8 early in the afternoon. It'll still be light, and we can start to check things immediately. We'll be away for 2 days, and we'll sleep in our tents. Is that okay with you, George?
Sure, Jim.
Said George confidently,
Let's go to work.
Keep in touch, and good luck.
said Mr. Richardson, shaking hands with both men. Jim and George drove through the beautiful snowy country south of Fairbanks and stopped at Pump Station 8. It was already getting dark, but they examined part of the pipeline near Pump Station 8 and noticed several leaks and cracks. Big drops of dark oil were leaking out of the pipeline and falling onto the white snow. It was a real emergency,
This is a very serious problem, Jim.
said George, examining the pipeline.
Let's get to work.
They immediately got the equipment they needed from the Jeep and started to work with their big headlamps,
It's hard to work well with these thick gloves.
said George, looking at Jim.
I know,
Said Jim,
but if you take them off, your hands will freeze. It's minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, below zero.
they were able to fix several leaks and some cracks. Then they phoned Mr. Richardson, who seemed satisfied. Later in the afternoon, a strong north wind started to blow and snow started to fall. Jim and George stopped working and put up their tent. Then they turned on the camping stove and heated some canned vegetable soup and ate some cheese sandwiches.
Well, this certainly isn't like Kate's delicious dinner last night.
Said George, laughing.
No, it isn't. But at least it's nice and hot.
Replied Jim.
Do you hear the wolves howling out there?
Asked George, a bit worried.
Yes, we're on their land.
Said Jim, smiling.
But they're not dangerous. There are a lot of wolves in Alaska. They're very smart animals.
It wasn't easy for George to fall asleep because he could hear the strong wind blowing and the wolves howling. Luckily, his sleeping bag was very warm and comfortable. Both men woke up early the next morning and continued their difficult work on the pipeline. They moved south to pump stations 9 and 10 and checked them. They were seriously damaged, and dark oil was leaking everywhere. Although the weather conditions were bad, they were able to fix the structural problems with the special equipment they had. On the morning of the 3rd day, they drove back to Fairbanks. The first part of their job was done. When George walked into the Elk Lodge, there was a big surprise. Karen and Justin were waiting for him.
Karen! Justin! What are you doing here?
Exclaimed George, hugging his kids.
Hi, Dad. We wanted to surprise you 2 days before Thanksgiving,
Said Justin, happily.
Mom drove us to the airport, and our flight got here a few hours ago. Mom and Grandpa send their love.
Isn't this exciting?
Exclaimed Karen.
We're going to celebrate Thanksgiving with you in Alaska. We already have our 2 rooms next to yours. Look, I'm wearing my new snow clothes.
Suddenly, they heard a loud barking from the kennel near the elk lodge. George told Karen and Justin about the Kobuk Kennel,
There's a kennel nearby.
said Karen, who wanted to know more.
Yes,
Said George.
perhaps we can visit it tomorrow morning.
An Inuit man at the reception desk looked at them and said,
Those dogs have been barking for a long time. That's not a good sign.
What do you mean?
asked Justin.
Well,
Said the Inuit man.
dogs and other animals can usually feel or even hear something that's going to happen, but we humans cannot feel or hear it. They barked a lot before the big earthquake the other day.
He turned around and left the reception desk quickly. Was there going to be another earthquake?